What if what we call disease isn't a curse at all, but a doorway? For Lena Florentino, the journey began young, diagnosed with psoriasis, anxiety, and depression while growing up in the chaos of young parents and a home shadowed by drugs. At just 16, she left to find her own way, carrying questions no teenager should have to bear. By 21, she had crossed continents to the US, where her search for truth led her through alternative healing, self inquiry, and spiritual awakening. What she discovered was revolutionary. She could heal herself. That moment became her mission to guide others in seeing that true healing is not only physical, but emotional, spiritual, and a return to the essence of who we truly are. Now, before we dive in, if you're here because you're seeking truth, healing, and transformation, make sure to subscribe and share this episode with someone who's ready for their own awakening. Every conversation here is meant to inspire your journey and remind you you're not alone. Welcome, Lena. Thank you so much for being here.
It's such a pleasure. Thank you, Caroline, for the invitation. It's an honor to be able to share my story with you and your followers. Have
Yes,
so much fun.
I know. I know. There's more to everybody needs to know. There is more to this relationship, and just thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited about this conversation because in actuality, I have done work with Lena, and I am way more excited than I have been in a while in relation to this because she is just so good at what she does. And I can tell the difference. It's been a week and a half since we connected and the work she did on me. And I just want you to hope you experience Lena as I have experienced her. So, Lena, can you go a little deeper into the trauma that you experienced and how your personal healing journey got you where you are today and into the work that you do?
Definitely. Well, I like to call my healing journey the way back home because
Mm,
that's how I feel, that I had to go back to myself to reconnect with my essence. But let's go back to where everything started. So I think the biggest trauma and the biggest impact in my life was when I was diagnosed with psoriasis at the age of 13. It was a very rare type of psoriasis. So literally all my skin fell out of my body. I lost my eyebrows, my nails. I couldn't walk.
mm,
It was extremely painful. It was not a nice thing to look at it. And the doctors back then didn't have many resources to treat kids, right? Like, so there weren't many medications back then. And honestly, they only gave me like 2 years maybe of life because they thought that would end up causing other problems. And that the best thing my parents could do was to put me in a hospital or a hospice type of thing. Um, it was also very hard for my parents. My parents had a lot of problems with drugs growing up. They were very young when they had me. And a lot of people were, in a way, accusing them, wow, it's your fault, it's your karma, you're paying for what you have done, maybe. So it was very traumatic, not only for me, but for them as well. They also had recently lost my sister. I lost my sister when I was 12 years old. She was
mm.
just a baby. And there were complications on her birth, and she ended up losing her life within few days. And I think we're all trying to process the grief, and then I got very sick. So I was like basically just surviving. I was not living. I lost all my teenager years trying to find a way to cope with the disease. The school didn't want me to attend classes because it was too ugly to look at it, and the kids were scared to be close to me. So it was extremely traumatic. But since the day I was diagnosed, I was very aware that there was something that was inside of me trying to send me a message in a way. I tried to explain that to the doctor as I keep saying, I feel like my body's trying to say something. But the doctors would just like, well, we don't know where this is coming from. We don't know how to really heal this, but we can try to improve your lifestyle, giving you like ointments and lotions. Nothing worked. Literally nothing worked. Until I saw probably about 30 doctors within few months. And I remember my mother and I were going through the name of doctors that were specialized in skin disease. And my mother chose one that apparently was the last one in our list. And when we went to this doctor, he was kind of a unique character. His office was very unique. It was an old house in downtown, which there were many doctors' offices. He didn't have a receptionist, and he was like kind of interesting. And he
Word you can find, right?
I know the best word I can find. It seems like his glasses were too big. His
Yeah.
clothes didn't fit him well. Like he was just a character.
Yeah.
He didn't ask me any normal questions like that usually doctors would ask you. He basically asked me how was my diet, and I told him that I would eat. I used to eat regular food, like what we eat in Brazil back then. And he asked me to show him my hands, and he just said, "You know what? You need spirituality." And my mother got very upset because I was raised Catholic. We used to go to church every Sunday. And he said, I'm going to write down few places that I would like you to visit. And he wrote down a piece of paper. Remember, I was only 13. So he wrote down a piece of paper, 3 places that he wanted me to go to. He said, okay, you can go. And my mother said, that's it. You didn't even check her. You didn't ask any questions. And he said, that's what she needs. And then I remember clearly that one of the places that I was invited to visit was Allan Kardec, which is a spiritual religion in Brazil. They believe in reincarnation, and they
What is
believe
the name again?
it's Allan Kardec. So it's
Alln?
Kardec is Kardek. I think
Okay.
I'm right about that.
I
There are some movies about Allan Kardec's life, and
okay, okay, I'm
his
curious. Yeah,
yeah, his religion is big in Brazil. So I
okay.
went to this place with some of my friends, and at first I was kind of impressed, like hear about reincarnations and mediumship, and I was not fully, aware of what Allan Kardec was, at least until I went there for the first time. I was always drawn into spirituality and angels and things like that, but I never had heard about the way they talk. Like immediately they told me that I probably had a past life where I was burned, and that was like some of the memories that is still within me. And I didn't feel very comfortable at first. I was only 13 and I was a little bit scared.
Sure.
So the next week, I invited my mom and we went to Seichonoye, which was the second place the doctor asked me to check it out. Seichonoye, it's a Japanese philosophy of life.
Spell that
And
one.
yeah, it's Seicho and then
C-H-O.
space N-O and space Seichonoye. I think it's E-I-E-I. Yeah, then. So it's a Japanese
So
philosophy of
Japanese,
life.
okay.
Yeah, they believe that the mind is the creator of our reality, and that everything we think, everything we say, and everything we do will impact our lives here now.
Mhm.
And it's a beautiful philosophy of life. I still following to this day. It opened many doors for me. But when I first got there, remember, I was very sick. It was visible, right? My skin was like peeling off. It was bright red. It was very hot. And there was this beautiful elderly lady by the door. And she looked at me like she knew me forever. And she said, you know what? I knew you were coming today. And I felt so welcome there. Nobody ever asked me any questions about my disease or look at me in a different way. They were sitting next to me, which was kind of rare back then.
Mhm.
And I said, wow, I really like this place. And then I started studying both Allan Kardec and Seichinoye. And yes, I was like, I didn't know them, but I was like expanding my spirituality in a way. I learned that it was not really about religion, but it was about understanding, who I was as a light being, not just as a physical body. And I remember one thing they told me, they told me, you're not your disease, right? You are a spiritual being having an experience. So you need to understand the difference between being a physical body having an experience and being, a being of light having an experience. And that changed everything for me because then I kind of reassure myself that whatever I was feeling inside had some, like, credibility, like that. Okay, I need to listen to my body. If I'm going to through an experience, if my body's trying to say something, I need to stop and listening to, even if everybody's saying I'm crazy, right? And that's exactly what I did. Once I started listening to my body, okay, I don't feel like this food is good for me. I don't feel like this situation is good for me. There was some improvement, not 100%, but there was some improvement. So at the
So
age of
can
16,
I interrupt you before you
yes, of
because I want
course.
people to get this. Like when you talk about listening to your body,
Hmm.
can you describe how you did that? Because I used to have such a hard time listening to my body because my body was usually yelling at me or I
Uh,
couldn't hear anything or
yes.
it was like, so what are you doing? What were you doing to listen to your body?
Well, honestly, I was always very intuitive and I just
Mm,
didn't know. So for me, listening to my body, there's always a voice inside of my mind telling me things.
okay.
I also like just have that feeling, that sense like this isn't good for me. Like, and honestly, these insights, they come more often when I'm in silence, right?
Yes.
So I always tell people I do believe that silence is the secret. Like, if you want to learn something, expand your spirituality or your consciousness, there's no other way than having that moment of silence, even if it's just few minutes a day, because there's so much noise
Mm,
around us that it's kind of hard to listen to yourself. But once I stop listening to other people, and I think this is the secret, right? It's like, no, doctors don't know all. Like mother and father, they do their best, but they don't know all. Like
hmm
you
hmm
are the only one that can really go with them and listen to yourself and feel what's happening within you. And
hmm
that was the biggest change for me. Like even when I left home, I moved to another city. I felt like being close to the ocean, being away from all the chaos, changing scenery was part of my healing process. I need that. I need that space to breathe, to find who I am, not finding who I am based on my parents' expectations, but finding who I am as a being of light, as God's creation.
this at 16.
I knew, I
You
don't know
were
how.
aware of this at 16. That's what I'm hearing you say.
Yes. And
Wow.
also, I remember that I used to see a lot of things when I was back home, like spiritual things, like, dead people, but
Mm,
it was always dark and sad. They were always sick, they always depressed. And I remember one time saying, I don't want to see this anymore. I'm not comfortable. And then it stopped completely. Just like out of the blue, it stopped. And I felt like, oh, they're listening. Something is listening to me because I say stopped and it stopped. So I moved away, I started my life, and then when I was living by myself, things started improving dramatically because then I decided to go on a very strict diet. My base diet was basically some vegetables and fruits, and my skin was clearing and I was getting better. I felt better. But of course, I had my moments. It was like, here and there, I would see some flare ups. So I knew it wasn't like 100% healed. And I want to be 100% healed because I didn't want to like just to cover, like, okay, I can cover it now because it's not all over my body, but it's still there. It's still bothering me, which means my body's still fighting something, right? And then I decided to move to United States, which was always my dream. I said I want to study there. I wanna see what they know about the disease and the impression that I had that all the best scientists, the best doctors, the best professors, they all came from the United States.
Mhm.
So I said, I want to go and see why they're so good about everything they do, right? I want to go and study there. And people thought I was crazy. They say, there's no way I wasn't rich. Like they say, there's no way you're going to be able to go work and study in the United States. That's for rich people. But I proved them wrong. I was able to I came here, but I was learning English, but I applied for scholarships and immediately I didn't get in, but I got into college in Massachusetts. And then I say, "Hey, what do I have to do to get a scholarship?" And they say, "Well, you have to be the best of the best." And I did. I was the best of the best. I was not only the best in my class, I was the best in my school. I was nominated by the state, the Senate, but I was working very hard to prove myself that I could do that, right? Like that I could do the things that I believe I was meant to do. And meanwhile, I was going to the doctors. The doctors say, we have the best medications in the world when it comes to psoriasis. And they start giving me medications. But I could feel that even though the medications would help me for like 6 months or so, after that period of time, everything would come back with revenge. It would be worse.
Yeah.
And then I started feeling my joints. I was diagnosed with psoriatic arthritis and then depression and anxiety. There was always something. And I said, this is not the life. For how many years will I have to take medications? How I'm going to be able to afford? Each medication was $15,000, like $20,000.
Wow.
And of course, I was going to college. I got a great job. I was working finances. So I always had that mentality that I have to be rich because I'm going to be an expensive old person when I grow up because I had so many issues, right? Like, so
Yeah.
I was so focused in making a lot of money to be able to afford, right? Like the medications, the doctors, the health insurance and everything. And I said, I think I'm focusing on the wrong thing here, right? And then I started like searching for alternatives like meditation and alternative healing. And doing this research, I understood that there was so much more behind my disease than what I knew, what
Mhm.
doctors were telling me, like, first of all, it started with like going back into my childhood, all the stress, the chaos, right? Like high levels of cortisol, always having a sore throat. So my mother gave me antibiotics. I took antibiotics for years. My first um few years of life, I was in antibiotics. So I was thinking, oh my gosh, the antibiotics probably destroy my gut. That like, my cortisol was very high. And I started
Mm.
like putting everything together.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I started having these dreams that I was healing people. And even though I was working finances, people used to call me all the time and asking for prayers or asking for advice or asking just like for 30 minutes of my time to talk about something. Even people that I didn't know. A friend told a friend that told a friend to call you that you can help me. So I was always the psychologist of the friend group, right? Type of thing. And I really like to work with people and help people, when they were going through something. But around that time, I think that was like probably 2015 or 2016, I started having these incredible dreams that I was like doing healing modalities like either Reiki or intuitive healing or quantic healing. And there was always this nice old gentleman with me. It was always at night, almost like a secret, almost like we're trying to keep it a secret. He would teach me things and then I would practice. But the dreams were so vivid with
Mm.
so much information, dates, like, and it was always in the past, never in the present or future. And it was just so unique that it kind of intrigued my curiosity. So I shared with a friend. I say, I have been having these dreams with this old gentleman. And it's really getting to me because it's like the dreams are so real. And she told me they are not dreams, they're memories. And that kind of got me, in a way, wow, memories, but who is he? I don't know him. And then I was thinking, well, maybe he's an ancestor, but why I'm doing energy healing? Why am I doing healing, right? So then I was watching a video on YouTube about spirituality, and I saw this guy talking about Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet. And of course, because he called the sleeping prophet and he kind of mentioned a little bit about his teachings, I was very curious. So how come I have never heard about this sleeping prophet? You know, it seems like he's very famous and I have never read his books. And then I Googled, right? Like I say, I want to see who he is. And for my surprise, he was the guy from my dreams.
That's so
Exactly.
great.
I know exactly how I saw him in the picture, like older. And then I saw, wow, he already passed away a few years ago. And I say, okay, how is this possible? So I started researching everything about his life, right? And the more I researched, the more I felt connected with everything that he used to teach. And I say, I need to tell somebody about this. Why am I dreaming with him? And the dreams continue, it didn't stop. So I called the IRE, which is the Association for Edgar Cayce in Virginia Beach. And I said, I know this is going to sound weird, but I just want to like some guidance because I really don't know what to do with this information. I
Can
ha- I'm
I
having
say
dreams
something?
with Edgar Cayce.
Edgar Casey. Can I say something? Now, I've heard this story before, and I love Edgar Casey. And I've been there one time, but I only went to the store. I didn't really get into anything. But when she was telling me this before, I was like all over this. But it's so funny because it's almost like you're continuing his work on this planet. When you told me that. And he is, I don't know. There's something here, people. That's all I gotta say. Go ahead. Never mind. I'm not gonna.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was trying to find out. And I say,
Yeah.
what is my connection with him? I don't even know him. I don't know anything about him. I wasn't even born here. How can we be connected? So, um, back then, I think Kevin Tadashi was the president of the IRE, and he was the one that I spoke with. And he said, I would recommend you to be part of a study group, you know, like to learn his teachings and to understand your connection with him. I think that would be the best way to start because remember, I didn't know anything about Edgar Cayce, right? So it was all new to me. So I did. I called the study group and we would get together once a week and read the books and talk about it. But then as soon as I started reading the book, The Search for God, and I started having these like flashbacks. Every time we were together, when I was reading the book, I would see things. And there was one that was very specific. I was a little boy, I was probably 2 years old. I was sitting by a train rail, like they were building a trail,
Train
the train, yeah,
train track? Train track?
train track. Yeah, they
Train
were building the train track in a specific place, and I remember all the details. But I could taste the dust because I was sitting on the floor, and the men were working, and they were like wearing a very specific type of clothing, so I could see that it was the past, right? And I knew I was waiting for my dad. I was waiting for my father to come and pick me up. So I was playing with rocks, sitting on the floor. I was a little boy, 2 years old. And then I just felt like that big hand holding my hand, and I was jumping and walking with my father. And then I look up and it was Edgar Cayce. He was my father in that past life. And it was funny because once I got out of that scene, I searched the place and I found out that that was the place where my great grandparents moved to Brazil. It's called Corupá. And I found even the pictures of when they were building the train track many years ago. It was exactly how I saw it. And I say, oh my gosh, how is this possible, right? Like, you know, like the clothing that the men were wearing when they were working and everything was exactly how I picture. And I knew that a few months after that scene, I had died with meningitis. I was probably 2.5 or so, so I had died in that life. Many of my lives I died very young, but that one was very, very young. So I said, oh my gosh, I was his son. And then as I continued to read the books and I would travel to Virginia Beach every time they had an event, they had a class, I would go there because I said, I want to know more. And every time I would go there, I would just lay down in the meditation room and I would tell him, tell me more because I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Why am I here? And there was one time specifically that I was laying down in a meditation room and I saw these like well, it was a beach, but there were like big rocks, and we could walk along The beach would open for us to walk like a path of sand. We walk and sat behind the big rocks, and he was eating peanuts, and he actually hand one to me. He's, oh, you don't like peanuts? And I said, well, I'm not a big fan. I will eat it if I need it, but I'm not a big fan. But we're like talking like old friends, and I just had that feeling like, when you like somebody and you have that connection with them, and I say, I don't know why am I here, but I really need to understand what I'm doing. And he said, look up. And when I look up, I saw like almost like it's definitely the future, but I saw like this, like almost like a spaceship, and there were like human beings, but they were like full of light. They had a very high vibration, and they were like almost like putting things together in a lab. And he said, "This is what you're working towards. This is what you're working for." Until this day, I'm trying to like understand what he was trying to show me. We are not there yet, but he was trying to show me that you are connecting the past with the future. Like, so you need to build this path. And I understood what he was trying to say, but I know we're not there yet. So when we came back to it, and then every time I was to go to Edgar Case, even if it was just for a convention, I would see him sitting next to the stage. There's a chair there, and if you've ever been there in one of the classes or the convention, you see that there's a chair there. And that chair is because he sits there every time there's a convention. There's something, and the most interesting thing is every time I go there, I see all these people that I know. I see their past lives and how we were connected, how we were together. So if you ever feel drawn to some place or some people, it's because you probably have like all these connections, right? All these past lives, they are tangled somehow, which
Mhm.
is very cool in a way, right? It's beautiful. But making a long story short, after the drinks, my guides came to me, that voice inside of my head, and they told me, you need to quit your job. This like phase is over, this cycle is over, and if you don't quit your job, your body's going to shut down. And I was feeling a little bit more disconnected from my job. I was very passionate about what I do. I was running the company then. And at my age, being an immigrant, being a woman, I felt like I'm on the top of the world, right? Like I had a very stable job, in a company that I loved. I was running the company basically. I felt very comfortable. I love what I do. But at the same time, I felt like there was something missing, right? And I was asking myself, well, what am I missing? And I knew deep in my heart that what I was missing was like, I want to help people. I want to change the world, right? I always had that dream about making a difference and helping people. And then I went to an event, Tony Robbins event, and I know they asked me, well, if there was anything you could be doing today, what would that be? And I said, I would be a holistic therapist. I want to like teach meditation, and I want to understand the mind body connection and teach people about that and help them with that. And then they asked me, why are you not doing that? I said, I don't know. I just don't know.
They
I
do
don't
that. They do that. You gotta do
know.
things
And I said,
like
oh my
that.
gosh, I
Yeah.
don't know. And then
Yeah.
came back home, and the voice was getting stronger. You need
Mhm.
to quit your job. And I was making good money. I was feeling very good about my job. I like what I do. I was growing in the company. But then one day I woke up and I felt like there was something wrong with my throat. And I said, oh my gosh, my thyroid does not work. I just had that feeling. It's not working. Besides everything I have happening in my body, now my thyroid is not working. So I call my doctor. I say, I feel like my thyroid is not working. She say, how do you know? I don't know. I just know. So she said, okay, come here. We're gonna run some tests. And then one day later, she called me and say, you have to call your doctor right away. It's really bad. It's not working at all, and it's probably affecting your whole body, right? Like so. I called my doctor, and then I was diagnosed with Hashimoto, which is another immune disorder. So then I already had three, right? Like immune disorder, one after another. When it comes to immune disorder, they
Mhm.
don't give you an answer where it's coming from, what is causing, how to heal. There's not a lot of information about immune disorders out there. However, I was determined. I said, I'm going to find the root cause because I'm just so tired. There's so many people out there suffering with immune disorders. And I know they feel like I felt for so many years. They don't feel seen. They don't feel heard. They feel like there's no answers. There's no way to get better is just like about taking medications for the rest of your life. And he said, that's not what I want for myself. So I decided to quit my job when I was about to turn 35 years old. I sent a letter to my former boss and I say, I'm sorry, but I'm quitting. This is the time. And we rent an RV. We went to Colorado. And I told my husband, I want to study holistic healing. I will start with sound healing because I was always fascinated by math. So for me, like math, music, it would all go together. And I said, I think that's where I'm going to start. But I need to do this for myself and for other people. And my husband was very supportive, which I think is very important, right? Because I was giving up a job that was very stable and starting something new from scratch. And my first patient, actually, she was a volunteer. I need volunteers to practice what I was learning. My first patient had breast cancer. And she was a very spiritual person. She had been to many healers, shamanic, retreats, and she had done everything you can think about it. But she couldn't find an answer why she was enduring breast cancer. Very young woman, beautiful soul. And I said, "Oh my gosh, I can't start with cancer, right? This is so complicated. There's so many layers to it." But when I started doing her sessions, I noticed that I could see a lot more than other people could see. Even my teachers were saying, don't say that, just keep to the basic because they don't want me to tell the other students that I could see all these things while I was doing the session. It was like, just keep to the techniques. I was doing biofield back then. And they say, if you start saying things, it becomes another thing. Then it's not biofield tuning, it's another thing. But
Mhm.
I couldn't help but seeing the connection, right? Between past lives, the environment, the triggers, the traumas in her body, right? Like, so everything was happening in layers until it hits the physical body, and the physical body was only sending an alert, right? And I said, oh my gosh, so that's what happened to me. And then I start like going deeper into what happened to myself, all the past lives and the triggers and the childhood and the ancestral baggage. And then as I understood that, I realized that I had to start healing my body from inside out, not the other way around. So it
So
doesn't matter.
you learn
What?
that for yourself by doing
Yes,
this course and working with someone who had breast cancer.
exactly. Exactly. Well, it was already like I was doing much, much
Yeah.
better because
Well,
just learning.
you were ready to expand
Yeah.
at
But
that point.
I realized that there was more to it. It was not just about my diet. It was not just
Yeah.
about the trauma. I had to look what happened even before I was born. What
Mhm.
happened to my ancestors? Like I learned that, like, for example, disease for my family was a way to survive. Something happened to one of my ancestors that because he or she was sick, she survived. So the
Mhm.
program that was created then is like, if you are sick, you survive, you thrive more than if you are not.
Yes. So let me ask this question because I think this is a good spot to put it in. So obviously, past lives influence our current experiences because that's what you're talking about. So can you give some signs that indicate what unresolved karma or trauma or lessons or whatever are happening from either previous lifetimes or ancestral lines or whatever is coming in? Can you share what those signs are? Or how did you get that? I mean, aside from having this woman in front of you, kind of you're figuring it out, but what are the signs?
So some signs that you may see in your life or in the life of your loved ones that may be a sign of a past life trauma or even disease, right? So first of all, I feel like if you have something that you cannot get a answer
Mm.
for, you go to the doctor and they say, well, it seems like it's this or it's that or it's that. Well, we just don't know. Like I had a client that she had a problem in her heart. And the doctors couldn't really give her an answer. What is this? They say, we don't know for sure, but there's definitely something there. That's a very good sign that there may be something connected to a past life. Even relationships. There's
Mhm.
that person in the family that you're very connected with. And there's that person that even though you try so hard, you cannot get along. It's okay. It could be something from a past life. And sometimes, not just because you are in a family, you are supposed to like all get along. Sometimes you just agree to come together and that's enough. Birthmarks. Birthmarks could be a major indication of a past life trauma or even the way you die in a previous lifetime. Uh, but for me, for example, I had to really dive deep because there were a lot of combination of things. There were like food sensitivities that were due to past lives. A lot of times, food sensitivities have something to do with a past life. For
Interesting.
example, I had a client, a little boy, that he had a problem eating. Like he wouldn't eat. Like he was mostly drinking like smoothies and and vitamins that the doctors would give to him. But he was a very pick eater. So after I did the first session with him, I learned that in a previous lifetime he was poisoned with a plate of food and he died. So there was this major fear connected with eating, right? Like that we had to work with, and we were able to help him. I had another little boy. We see that a lot with kids. Kids from the age of 0 to 7, they're very connected with their past lives. So sometimes they don't want to eat something, or they don't want to hug somebody, or they don't want to go somewhere. It could be something connected to a previous life as well.
So it's
I
not good to force them to do that, in other words, when that's
Yeah, I
happening.
asked people
Yeah,
to be very mindful because
yeah,
kids are very connected.
yeah.
So I tell moms and dads, if they don't want to eat potato, it's okay. Let's try something else because that could be something traumatic for them. Like I had this little boy that he wasn't able to go to the bathroom, and he was getting ready to go to school. His mother had tried everything, nothing worked. So he was 7 wearing diapers. And even though the school say, well, we're going to try to accommodate him, it's complicated because the other kids may sing, right? So that there was so much more. We want to make sure that psychological and mentally he was okay with the fact that he had to wear diapers. But his mother came to me and said, I don't know what else to do. And then we went back in one of his previous lives. Actually, I was trying to understand the trauma. There was a lot of resistance in the body. He was only 7 years old. He was really traumatized to go to the bathroom. But I observed that in some of his previous lives, specifically one, his mother died when he was very young. They were very poor. There were like 7 or 8 kids. In a night, he was very little, around 4. He had to use the bathroom outside.
Mm,
It was dark. It was a very scary place. And his father was tired, working all day, caring for the 7 kids. And he said, you gotta go. And he was afraid. He said, Daddy, can you go with me? So he would do things in his pants. He couldn't hold anymore. He wouldn't go. So his father would beat him
mm.
or tie him outside as a punishment for not going to the bathroom by himself. So that created a major trauma, not only in his like soul memory, but also in his physical body. He had a lot of resistance in his body. It took us like 6 months to work with this little boy. There was a lot of trauma. And then what happened was his mother, of course, she tried force him to use the bathroom, and sometimes she lost her temper. She hit him, which like aggravated the trauma, right? Like because then you are reliving the trauma. It like he creates another layer,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
That's why it was so hard to work with him. But once she found out and understood, she was more compassionate,
Yeah.
and she was trying to give him the space that he needed. And now he can use the bathroom. He's 8 now and everything is okay. But it was a very difficult time for that family.
Can you go back now to, like, what you were finish up your story in Colorado? Because I wanna hear how all that ended up, the incredible healer person, intuitive, healer you are today that's worked on me, because after we're done with this part of the conversation, I am having, Lena do a short session.
Yeah, mini session.
I'm gonna have her do a short session with me so you can get an idea of what she does. So, Lena, if you could just give a sampling of the kind of work that you do.
Seeing this patient with breast cancer, I realized that I could help a lot more people. She healed within 3 months. We did 6 sessions specifically. And I realized that, oh my gosh, I can help so many people because what I could see was like the root cause of the problem. Like when I look into her body, I could see exactly what was happening inside of her body. Like they call here medical intuitive. Until then, I didn't know that I had this thing. I could see things in people, and but I thought it was normal, right? Like so, until then, I didn't realize that okay, I can see, but now I have the tools. Going back to school and learn about holistic healing and sound healing and biofield, say, okay, now I can see and I have the tools to bring harmony into the body. I found out that, okay, all the traumas, all the blockages from past lives, they are all entanglements in
Mhm.
the biofield. So these balls of energy, and if you break out these balls of energy and allow the energy to flow in the body again, the body can heal itself. I like to say that that does not work for everybody because sometimes it's part of your journey. The disease can also be a portal, right? To find yourself, like it was for me. I was sick for many years, and people were saying, well, but if you know all this, why you didn't heal yourself before? It was not my time yet
Mhm.
is the disease in a way was my guide, right? It guided me here, it guided me into holistic healing, it guided me to understand and connect with people in a deeper level as well. So I'm very thankful that I was sick because I can see that the disease was the only way that I found and the spirituality found to keep me on track in a way, because it's hard to say I understand your pain if you have never felt pain.
Right.
But I can tell people I understand your pain. I know what it feels to be sick. I know what it feels to be depressed. I have experienced everything. Like when it comes to pain levels, like I remember sharing with people that for me the most terrible thing was taking a shower. So now every time I take a shower, I'm so grateful because you have no idea what feels like taking a shower when your skin
Yeah.
falls apart, like and it's bleeding, right? Like it's just so painful. And so I feel like the disease is definitely part of our journey. It's a part of your awakening. So I tell people I can see things and I can help them to get there. However, they only gonna heal when it's time for them to heal and when they're open for, because we also have free will. So I can give them all the guidance and all the tools and all the information, but if they are not ready to heal, it may not happen yet because it's not time. Right. So I dedicated my life since then to learn more about this mind, body, and soul connection and to help people to understand their purpose in life and to understand the root cause of their problems so they can become better people in a way. Because we are out here to to expand. It's not really, we're not broken, but to expand. And it's interesting that human beings tend to be in a comfort zone. If everything is working the way we want it to work, we kind of get very comfortable. And that's why sometimes the disease or financial struggles or relationship struggles come into play to allow you and help you to get out of the comfort zone and explore more and be curious. What else could I be doing? How else could I be living my life? And sometimes that's the only way. Now, that's what I do. I have been working in this field for about 8 years now. I like to call myself more like a teacher than a healer because I don't believe they don't need healers. They need guidance. They need teachers. They need to understand how this beautiful connection in body and soul works. I've seen people walking around where they're so disconnected that they have three bodies. I see their three bodies. So one is the soul, one is the physical body, and one is the energetic body. And they're not connected. I see a lot of healthy problems that are actually present in the body because there's this disconnection, right? Like
Mhm.
sometimes the mental body, it's so overwhelmed that the person chooses to disconnect itself from everything because the physical body can no longer process everything, the energetic body can no longer process everything. And the soul is just like observing, right? In a way. So of course you cannot heal if you're fully disconnected, right?
Mhm.
You're just like you're just surviving, but you're not thriving.
I know that because within the last few years, I mean, I was like so disconnected from my body, probably about 3 to 4 years ago that I couldn't even like feel. It's a deep level of like trauma and mental and emotional and energetic and all that you're talking about. Such a disconnection between those parts of you that you're talking about that and I've had conversations similar to this in other interviews where it's like you disconnect and if you're disconnected and it's something like you don't embody, if you don't embody yourself, you have no connection with anything else. You're just like this lump, basically, that you're just
Exactly.
kind of moving through life. And, you know, and it what the other part that's interesting from what you've said and from other conversations that I've had is like you said that the body isn't going to necessarily heal until it's time. So I find that interesting because I have noticed, even since seeing you, that everyone who's seen this knows about my shoulder. I've been working on my shoulder, doing all this stuff, and nothing has worked totally. I mean, giving me breaks, giving me intermittent, that type of thing. But we didn't get down to the main cause. We didn't know what was going on until I saw Lena. And then at the same time, I don't know if I would have been ready 2 or 3 years ago because I was still walking through the challenges in my life and engaging with the brick wall and still being in trauma and still, responding PTSR R is the response. I'm responding to all these things. I'm hypervigilant. I'm all this. If I'm still doing that, then I am not able to let this go. Now, since I've done my work and the timing could not have been more impeccable. Like literally, it took Lena and I 3 times to find our way back to each other after meeting the first time. We were
Yeah.
supposed to do an interview in January of this year, and we're at the end of September, so, or at least recording this. And it's just incredible to me. And as I reached out, and she had something going on, and then that didn't work, and then I reached out again, and then again there was something going on, and it didn't work again. But the third time brought us together, and more than just this interview, it also brought us together for me to work with her and to discover and to uncover these things that were ready to come out. And that's what it feels like. Like my entire existence just feels different at this point. But we'll get into a little bit of that later. But what I also wanted to share too is I'm an avid follower of Carl Jung. And I also like Edgar Casey because, as I've mentioned, because there's a lot of information that I've learned and that's helped me through learning about him too because he's got like all kinds of you're listening to the way Lena's talking like multiply the two of them together and it's just mind-boggling. It's just incredible. And he has always been somebody who could foresee the future. And what he did was basically he did his own meditations and he had a woman who worked for him uh, just I don't think they had a recorder back then. I would assume
And she
not.
write everything
She was
down.
handwriting everything out that he said, and the things that he said are literally going on right now. So that's how profound this guy was. So between the two of them. Now, for me with Jung, Jung talks about how our life, and this goes back to what you were saying, Lena, how our life is an opportunity to grow as a soul. Everything that happens to us doesn't happen to us because we're just screwed. We get into this life and all these things are going on and all these things are happening. That's not why it's happening. Everything that happens with us gives us an opportunity to move to the next spot, move to the next spot, move to the next spot. That is our life. That's what he talks about. And it's just so exciting to me because having met Lena has kind of made this a full circle understanding from Carl Jung and from Edgar Casey, and now with her working with me. And I'm like, once again, the mind blowing emojis going off. But in this, I would love it if you could do about, I don't know, 10 minutes ish give an example of the work you do. And so we can kind of show people what that looks like.
Mhm. Well, I would ask everyone that's watching or listening, and you to set an intention, and I think maybe we can work with your heart. Everybody's holding something today or would like to let go of something. They may not know how to do it. I truly believe that our heart is our connection with the divine, with the
Mhm.
creation. We are vessels of the creation here to experience life as a whole. There's no other way.
Yeah,
Um,
and I
that's
was gonna say heart only through the process where because of all of the things that are going on right now, everyone, I would think, in some way, it doesn't matter who you are, what side you're on, whatever, it doesn't matter. I feel like we all have some form of pain, some form of trauma, some form of heartbreak. And what I've learned from my own family, who's had a lot of heart issues in the past, that can cause the heart issues, because we're talking about past lives. We're talking about,
exactly.
disconnection. We're talking about all this stuff. So, yeah, I would love for you to get in there because we've already kind of looked at me working with my heart. And I just feel like everyone else could use this too. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I love
So,
that. Okay, so I will invite everybody to put their hands on their heart and close their eyes and take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold the breath for a few seconds. Feel that presence in the air in your body and exhale out through your mouth. Very slow, letting go all the tension, all the stress. Feel your feet on the ground or your body being sustained by the surface that you are in. And take another deep breath in. Hold the breath for a few seconds and let it go very slowly, allowing the body to relax. And now just breathe at your own rhythm. You don't have to force anything. Just be aware of the air entering your nostrils and letting go through your mouth. Now bringing your attention to your heart. Just scan your heart for a few seconds. The right side of the heart, the left side of the heart, the back of the heart, and the front of the heart. Feel a sense if there are any discomfort there, any feelings that may arise. Just know that in the front of the heart is where we give energy to others. The back of the heart is where we receive energy from others. I feel like there's a lot of people in the collective, they're having a hard time trusting others. So they close their heart in the back. So that may feel like a burning sensation, or it may feel heavy in the back, or you may feel a tingling sensation. In the right side of the heart, if it feels heavy there, you may be having a hard time listening to your heart. The left side is where grief stays, sadness, uncertainty. Sometimes you just don't have anything else to give, so it may feel very heavy in the front of the heart. But now I just want you to bring your attention there. I feel like your heart, Caroline, is open, which is very good. The energy is flowing through. There's still some resistance and really fully trusting the world around you. So now I'm just going to ask you and your followers to mentalize I trust my heart. I trust my path. I trust my purpose. I am exactly where I need to be right now. Keep breathing. And just imagine and feel a beautiful golden light inside of your heart. And feel and imagine that this beautiful golden light expands with each breath. And here I'm using the tuning fork to remove all the blockages around the heart and to bring harmony into the heart center, not only Carolina's heart center, but the collective. Mother Earth, the universe, and everything around us has a biofield just like we have, and we're all connected as one at the core. So as I'm working with Caroline, I'm working with the collective, working with everyone that's somehow connected here. Feel this beautiful light within you expand, and you are exactly right. Feel all this beautiful energy expanding within you, connecting you to everything around you. Remember that the heart is the channel. The heart is it's where you connect to yourself, with nature, with others. And your heart is also your GPS. It guides you. It knows exactly what you need, connected to your essence, to your higher self, and to the creator. The only way that you're going to heal, that you're going to expand, that you're going to be able to enjoy life abundantly is through your heart. There's no other way. And especially around the age of 35 or so, if you cannot open your heart, you're going to endure a lot of difficulties. But just know that these are only opportunities for you to open your heart, to let go what does not longer serve you, and open yourself to live your spiritual truth. How does it feel, Caroline?
Well, I always do this after I'm done anyway to let the person know. So here we go. And you validated it. I have to say that. So at the very beginning, when you started talking about the different sides of the heart, in the back, I felt like a tugging
Mhm.
or a pulling. And then right before you said tingling, I felt a little tingle on the back left, like there. Um, then, and it's still happening right now, I've been feeling like this little tingle right here on top of
Mhm.
my head. Um, and when you came close to the end of talking about the parts of the heart, I my ear popped, my left ear popped. So I don't know what all that is if you want to share that part of it, but those are the things that happen. But it always feels wonderful when you do this. So
It's great.
just saying that. But yeah, I
Yeah.
just wanted to see if there's anything you can like share with what I shared back with you, just so people
Yeah,
can what that
definitely.
might be. Yeah.
Well, it makes a lot of sense. And like I say, I was like intentionally doing the collective as well, because
Mhm.
if you are, listening or watching, you're gonna be able to experience, based on the intentions that we set here. But what you were feeling was not only what it was in your biofield, but also what the collective feels.
I
There's a lot of fear right now
Yes.
in the
Yeah,
world.
I knew it.
So people are very defensive. And when people are defensive, that creates resistance, right? On that vortex of energy behind
Yeah.
your back, right? Like, I don't know if I want to trust. I don't know if I feel comfortable trusting right now. However, just like you felt like, okay, you even felt the tingling here, because when you choose to keep your heart open no matter what's happening out there, when you choose to be present, and when you choose to live through love and not fear, you keep your heart open, and then you have all this energy flowing right down through your head, through your feet, and through your feet, and up through your head, and you expand this energy, and you create a new reality for yourself in a way.
Mm.
However, when you are in fear, you connect it to your primitive mode. almost like an animal instinct. And that's why we are seeing now more and more in the collective, right? Like this, like it's a tug of war, right? Like for power and money and this and that, because people are connected to their primitive mode
Mm.
about surviving, right? But we have a choice to keep our heart open. That's exactly what you did. Like you felt a little bit of the resistance, but you chose to be present and to stay open, right? And it is a choice. It's a choice that we have to do daily, because if we connected with the collective, the instinct is, of course, to protect yourself, right? To make things like to contract. But when you contract, you
Yeah.
also contract your biofield. So
Mhm.
just think like a container, right? So I have this bottle of water. Let's say this is my biofield, and I can only receive so much to fill this bottle of water, right? To survive, let's say. However, if I decided that no, I want to make this bigger, how much more can you receive if you make your container big?
Mm.
So your heart is this container. Your heart determines your vibration, determines how people see you. It determines your voice, the way you connect with the world. So if your heart's closed, you are in survival mode and you can only receive enough to survive.
Mm.
That goes for everything. So I
Yeah.
tell people it doesn't really matter what's happening out there, you can change the way you perceive life. This is why you see people in a war zone and they seem happy and and like comfortable in a way. And you see other people they are desperate and miserable, because even when you are in a very uncomfortable position, you can still change the way you perceive reality.
Mhm.
It's only throughout your heart. There's
Like
no
Viktor Frankl in the concentration camp. I don't remember the name of the book, but Viktor Frankl was a psychiatrist who was, in the concentration camp. And in his book, the first part of the book was written about his experience in the concentration camp, and he was talking about how he could see, like, a sunset behind the wires, and he was still able to do that kind of thing. So that's very powerful. Um, yeah, and I feel that, and it's interesting because to me, this is a manifestation, how you described this and how we did this, of the difference between love and fear. That like just about every interview I talk to people recently about has been about love and fear. Not all of these have come out yet, but it's interesting that we're leading in that direction. Like we're trying
yeah.
working on moving away from fear into love. And okay, the heart is about love, and it's not just the human kind of love, it's the expanded love of the universe, and how you see your higher power or whatever that means to you, or even if you don't, it's love. So thank you for saying that. Now my question is, was that pop just a finale, or what was that?
Yeah, there was probably a little bit of stagnation there or resistance there. But since you kept your heart open and there was a lot of energy coming through, right? Like going through your third eye into your crown, it removed whatever any resistance that's still there.
And I
And what
that's
size of your head it was left?
the left, yeah, that's what. Yep.
Yeah. So the left side, I just had a moment now. It's worry about the future. Since I was calling you to be present, right?
Mhm.
Any resistance that had to do with the future or the past were dissolved, right?
Mm.
So, and it's interesting because people they may watch this or listen to this weeks from now, or months from now, or years from now. They can still receive the benefits. This is the beauty of vibration. This is why I fall in love with vibrational therapies. So powerful what you can do using sounds, vibration, and words. You can
Mhm.
literally change
Mhm.
the world in a beautiful way.
Well, I also find it interesting because there's a direct connection with the heart and the left side of the body anyway. The whole left side of the body. I, I'm adding the ear in, but the left side of the body.
The left side of the body is it's connected to the feminine energy. So it is more like nurturing and loving and
Yeah.
patient. It has more this like heart energy. But the heart is like it's what controls everything. Because it creates your vibration, you know, um your blueprint. And it determines your blueprint every single day. That's why There are many studies done that the heart knows actually what's going to happen even before it happens, because the heart is because it creates your biofield is also connected to the biofield of the collective and the biofield of everything around you. So you can feel things, and that's why we know things before we know things.
That's
Because the heart can pick up the energy, and it already prepares your body for what is to
yeah,
come.
yeah, and that's interesting to me because that might be why I'm seeing this in myself as an empath and a highly sensitive. It was for many years I kept my heart blocked or shut down or whatever to protect myself from all of the feelings that everybody had or all of the things. Like I would wake up some mornings and I'd just start crying.
Mm.
And I thought it was me. And it took me years to figure out it's not me. And then when I finally figured that out, I would still wake up crying, but then I'd be like, all right, what's going on in the world? What's happening? Did we just have a shift in the universe? Something going on with the planets? I'd start questioning it. And the more I questioned it, the more I was able to come back to myself and recognize it and stop taking it personally, basically, that it wasn't about that, but I didn't feel like I needed to protect myself anymore as
Mm.
an empath or highly sensitive by clearing out all that other energy and reconnecting everything. So that was a very interesting part of my journey to watch that because literally anything like now, if I was the way things are right now in the world, if I was still going through the things that I was going through in the last 4 or 5 years with dark nights of the soul or whatever you wanna call them. If I was doing that now, I don't know if I could survive what's happening right now, but it was meant to happen for me to heal that so I could do this. So everything leads to the growth of our soul, and that's gonna segue us into the last questions I want to ask you.
Okay.
You ready?
Yes. Yeah.
If you could offer one piece of advice to someone just starting their healing journey, what would it be?
That's a good one. Well, practice silence,
Mhm,
because a lot of people say, do meditation, do this, but I think the best way to connect with yourself and connect with the truth, if
mhm,
you eliminate judgment from your life, because sometimes we even think we are doing something great, but the back of our minds or the main tension behind is a little bit of judgment. And I
mhm.
have many stories about that. But if you can look at everybody and everything with no judgment, you're gonna understand what unconditional love is. That goes back to the core of many amazing religions and philosophies out there. And you understand what unconditional love is, because I always tell people conditional love is very different than unconditional love. You may think you love something or somebody, but is that true love? Or that comes with something else. If it comes with
Mhm,
something
mhm.
else, it calls conditional love, and that's not what Jesus or all the prophets out there were trying to teach us. And unconditional love only comes with zero judgment.
And I'm going to add to that because that's a very important thought that you brought up is as well judgment on yourself.
Yes.
Because when we judge ourselves even more harshly than we judge other people. So when you start to stop judging yourself as harshly as you do, you open your heart and it helps you to not judge other people either, right?
And then you learn how to love yourself unconditionally as well.
Yes.
Because also you have to ask yourself, why would I be judging myself? Because people believe in mistakes. And I like to tell them there's no such a thing. There are only opportunities in life. And if they could see the ways I see things, like sometimes people come to me and say, oh my gosh, I got in a car accident, my life is over. And I say, well, but they were protecting you. How's that like a bad thing? And they say, oh,
Right.
really? And I say, yes. Spirituality, your guides, God, whatever you believe, your ancestors were protecting you. So it was not a bad thing. You were supposed to be in something even worse. They did what they could to protect you. And they say, really? So you see, it's all about perspective, right? Like, so if you see everything as an opportunity and you understand that there's no such a thing as mistakes, why are you judging yourself for?
Well, yes, and that pulls us back into that thing I mentioned about Carl Jung, where that is our life. The accident is our life as an opportunity to grow our soul,
Exactly.
grow as a soul,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Okay.
Yeah.
How do you define awakening?
Ooh, that's a good
I
one.
figured you'd like that one.
Yeah, awakening for me, it's going back home.
Mm,
It's remember who you are before your experiences. That's
thank
awakening.
you. That's always my favorite one when I hear, because I've heard that I've heard other people say that before. I think about 20 years ago, I was trying to figure out the name of my business.
Oh,
And the first name that came to me ever in the work I do was The Coming Home. And
wow.
I ended up naming a blog that instead of the business, but yeah. So just saying, I don't
Look
know. It
at
all
that.
loops back, everything
Yeah.
around. Yeah.
Mhm.
What do you believe soul divinity is?
I believe soul divinity is our essence. Um, because we're pure, we're so beautiful, so powerful. And yes, we chose to be part of this experience. But at the end of the day, we are divine. And so soul divinity for me, um, it represents our essence. That's what we are.
Okay, this is an easy one. How can people get in touch with you?
Okay. So the best way to find me is on my website, www.ownhealingsanctuary.com, or my Instagram, which is Own Healing Sanctuary. Actually, I have it here.
Look at you.
Uh, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's
So
really pretty.
that's the best way to find me.
Okay. Okay.
Caroline knows where to find me as well. So yeah.
Caroline knows where to find her as well. Yes, and the information will of course be down in the show notes or the description or whatever you want to call it. I'm still working on that part of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I'm going to say this one more time. If you're ready, especially if you're ready for your next level, I mean, if you've got things going on physically and you're trying to work through some things and the medical intuitive side of this beautiful person here is amazing and it'll connect you with parts of yourself that you had no idea. So just from my experience with her and the you know love and beauty in her heart and all of this, you are not going to go wrong just even having a conversation with her to find what direction you want to go in. If you've got blind spots, whatever you've got going on, seriously, get in touch with Lena because she will guide you into places that you would never think that you were going to go. Just a thought. So,
Uh,
yes, thank you, Lena.
thank
Um,
you.
is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience before we wrap up?
I think one thing goes back to fear versus love.
Mhm.
I know we live in times that it's kind of difficult to stay positive and to vibrate the love, way all the time. But I wanted people to understand that the only way we can change the world is if we change ourselves, right? Like, so if we change the way we look at things and we try to vibrate in a loving way every day, try not to focus on what they want to make us believe, because there's a lot of programming out there. This is part of humanity. It's up to us to find our way. And I truly believe that the only way what's really happening, the truth, it's to go with them.
Mm.
I don't connect with anything outside. If I have a question, I meditate, I pray, I chant, I stay silent, because I truly believe that I can create my own reality and I can affect the world in a positive way. And if you stay in fear, you disconnect it from reality in a way. It's the other way around. People think that they are more connected if they stay in tune with everything that's happening. But in reality, you disconnect yourself. You are only in survival mode, and that won't allow you to keep growing and and helping others.
And energy is so subtle that you don't
Oh,
even
yeah,
know what all this being on social media and all that stuff is doing to you.
exactly.
It's so subtle what it's doing. I had a really quick question. I just wanted you to clarify something. You've mentioned the word silence a few times, and I know about this word with you. So Can you describe in a few short couple of sentences or whatever exactly what you mean by silence? Like, because I know how much time you spend in silence,
Mm.
and for me, I've been working diligently trying to figure this out because it's like that much time in silence. Are you just sitting there, or are you like doing things but not talking? Or please describe what you
Mhm.
mean by silence.
Yeah. I learned more and more that silence, it's a portal, right? When I'm in silence, when really the magic happened. The best downloads that I have received, I received when I was in silence. So for me, silence is really to sit down. I turn off the TV, I turn off the cell phone, I try to unplug. Of course, you need to know your environment, right? Like if you don't like the AC on, or if there are noises around you, trying to find a place where you can really sit down and just disconnect it. I also like to sit down outside in nature, or just looking at the ocean, or just looking at the leaves moving. That could be a way of staying in silence as well. But I like to just sit in my bed. Sometimes I have my cat, my dog with me. They don't bother me, and I just unplug. I don't think about what I have to do. I don't think about what's coming next. And it can be 5 minutes, it can be 10 minutes, it can be a few hours. Sometimes I spend hours doing that. And I just leave my mind blank. Sometimes if I feel like I'll put like a frequency, like 528 is a very good one, 432 is another good one, very low, almost like that I cannot listen, but it's still there. I can still feel the vibration. And like I say, usually that's when the magic happens, because you're not telling your brain to do anything. You are just opening the space for something to come in. And remember, we are connected to everything, right? All the information that you need, it's out there, right? You can connect it to any time you want, but you won't be able to connect it if your mind is completely full, if there's a lot of baggage in there. So you need to just like, it's not to think, because you're always going to be thinking about something, but it's just creating that extra space for you to receive the information, right? You can set an intention if you want. You can say, wow, I would like to connect with my guides. I do that all the time. I always connect with the Galactic Confederation, my guides, my mentors, my ancestors. But I mean, you don't have to set an intention. You could just say, I just want to set still and connect it with the universe, and connect with it's out there, and connect with my higher self, you know. I feel like the beauty is in silence. Even in sound healing, we learned that the musical notes are very important. We have musical notes, never part of our bodies. We are a beautiful symphony. And it's really beautiful to play the musical notes to bring harmony to the body. But the most important part of the sound healing, a sound healing session, is the silence between each note. There's no beauty if there's no silence between each note. It will just be a mess, right? If we play one on top of the other. But because there's that silence between each note, the body has time to process, like and flow from one vibration to another. And I think it's one thing that we lost along the years, along the civilizations, is to have that moment to set still. So I
Mhm.
think it's very important.
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk more about that later. Lena, thank you so much for sharing such a powerful and intimate journey with us. I mean, you've shown us how illness and family chaos and the courage to leave home so young can open up the path to discovering the body's innate wisdom and the soul's deepest truth. And your story reminds us that healing isn't simply about erasing symptoms, it's about reclaiming wholeness and
Yes.
aligning with spirit and remembering who we truly are. And to our audience, may this conversation inspire you to see your own challenges not as walls, but as invitations to rise. So thank you for being here with us on Awakening Soul Divinity.
Beautiful.
Thank you for being here. Click on one of the videos below to keep going on your healing journey. And don't forget to subscribe.